Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. And this is Dr. Jacqueline King, in case you don't know, the CEO and founder of Black Women in Power. And I am here with the lovely Claudia Massey. Look, I named you I Am Every Woman. Did you see that?
Wow, come
That's
on.
what I put I'm every woman, Claudia Massey, because you indeed are every woman.
Wow,
you
thank
got you got so much going on.
Yes, look, blessed by the best.
I know that's right. So Claudia, we have 95% of our followers are women. First of all, good evening, everybody. If you as you come in, let us know where you're coming in from. Type it in there. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to type them in the chat box. And yeah, we'll try to. If you have questions, we'll try to read them. I got a new iPad. It's real tiny, so I might not be able to, but we'll work on it. but so let's go back to the beginning. Who is Claudia?
Wow, look, I'm just a country girl from Council, North Carolina. Council, North Carolina is a little city with no stoplight. Grew
Oh
up
wow.
cropping tobacco, driving a tractor, a country girl. That's who I am, who moved to Richmond, Virginia, and married the love of my life in 2000. I moved to Richmond, Virginia in 2006, met the love of my life in 2010. Look, combined, we have 8 children. My husband had 2 before we married. I had 3, and we adopted 3.
Oh
So
wow.
that's a little bit about me. I don't know how much you want me to go into. Who is Claudia Massey? You know,
Well, that
keep
that's a
going.
that's a real good start.
All
Uh,
right.
so you got married, found the love of your life, and got married in 2010. And
Yes,
was this your first marriage?
absolutely not. I got it wrong a time or two.
A time or two.
A
Okay.
time or two. Yes, I met my husband in 2010, and we married in 2015. So, look, I listened to God on that one, and I didn't do it my way.
Yeah, yeah. You wasn't doing Frank Sinatra. I did it my way.
Okay.
Okay. So fast forward, you got married, you had kids, you did a blended family. How
Yeah.
did that work? Because that can be a challenge.
It can be a challenge. My husband's children actually live in Tennessee,
Okay.
and my husband, who was active duty military, served 29 years. He is originally from Richmond, Virginia, so he had come back to Richmond to serve at Fort Lee.
Okay.
So that's how we met. But because his children were in Tennessee, and then I had my children, it sort of worked out. It wasn't blended right off. But then once we all blended, and then to adopt 3 more is very
Mm,
challenging. I can't say it was a breeze, or it is a breeze. Very challenging, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience. Every child, have different personalities. Every child need individual attention and time. So it's a lot of work to be a good parent.
absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So when did you get like so busy? Your business. Let's talk about your business or businesses. How did you start your business and when did you start? Did you already have it when you got married?
When I got married, no. I was talking about it. Actually, we got married April 2015, and I didn't launch the business until September 2015. It was something I was talking about, and my business is called Patients for Patients Home Care Agency. It's
Mm,
co-founded by myself and my oldest daughter. The reason why I wanted to start a home health business is because I was a home health aide for almost
okay.
10 to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Being a home health aide and going to different facilities and working with different patients and seeing how the aides, the caregivers were treating the patients. Sometimes they were cursing them out, pulling
Mm.
on them, not changing them, the tone of voice they have with them. When we're working with patients, who have one Alzheimer's, or maybe they can't walk or need transferring. They need to be turned every 2 hours. And when they're not receiving that kind of care, it's heartbreaking. We then, are neglecting the care of someone and really causing their decline. So that's really what inspired me to start my own home health care agency and to hire individuals who had patience and love
Mm.
for people.
And so how hard was that? Because we have a lot of people who want to start businesses, but fear is they let fear hold them back.
That's
God,
it.
God doesn't give you a vision without provision.
Come on, that part. And like I said, my oldest daughter and I started the business, and she was 24 years old at the time. So of course she was like, "How are we gonna do this?" She had all kinds of questions, but I don't know. God gave me that if I give it to you, I'm gonna see you through it. And of course, we have to be dedicated and committed to the process. So writing down the plan, telling yourself there's no plan B, this is plan A. How you gonna make it work? Yeah, it's very challenging, because when you think about a home care agency, and you got to think about, okay, now where I'm gonna get the clients from. That's number one, the employees and so forth. And it can be challenging because you have franchises here, big home care agencies with a name. So when people get ready to seek home care, home care care, when they get ready to seek that care, they're going to go with the big names. You know what I'm saying? They don't know about Patients for Patients Home Care Agency. So yes, it was a lot of work, putting ourselves out there, and we did a lot of that. We did a lot of groundwork. I mean, we visited a lot of facilities, hospitals. We had our logo and our pictures on the transit,
Oh,
magazines,
wow.
newspapers. I mean, we did it all, because you really have to put in. My mother always said, don't expect to get anything out if you're not putting anything in. So, make sure that you're doing everything that you can do. And trust me, when we got the first client, that then gave us hope. It was only one, but that's hope to know, hey, okay, somebody heard about us. They're going to tell someone else. They're going to tell someone else. And that's really how we got a lot of our clients, by, word of mouth.
So because I actually believe I used to work in assistant living, and I also worked for a home health care agency, privately owned too. So you send the CNAs and all out to the people's houses, right?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah, so how many clients do you have now?
Um, Probably over 50.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Some of them are, on 24-hour care, and it varies. Of course, it varies. You're going to have clients who pass, and that client can pass. You get someone else who might call you, two or three people in 1 week. So it varies. Some people need temporary care. Some people have been with us for 10 years, so it definitely varies.
So the part that's really, really important is the marketing when you're first starting, would you say?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people don't get it that you have to market. That's why we have the online directory, because if no one knows, I don't care how good your product is, but if no one knows about it, it's just another product.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, but that's really, really great. And so you also have you have the radio show, and what else?
Yes, I have the radio show here in Richmond, Virginia. I'm on WBTK on Mondays at 12 noon. And then, that's a live radio segment. And so then what I do is I take that segment and then play it on Rejoice 93.7 FM here in Richmond, Virginia on Saturdays, the following Saturday at 8 a.m. And then I also have a television show on Preach the
Wow.
Word Worldwide Network in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm in Atlanta every month recording the show. I
Wow.
air every Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on Preach the Word Worldwide Network, Roku, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV.
That's pretty big. That's big, lady. You're
Thank you.
you're a celebrity.
Oh. I don't know about all of that.
Absolutely, you are. Well, that's good. That's good encouragement because, like I say, a lot of people let fear hold them back. How did you get past that? Because I know you had to have some.
Yes, when we think about, starting a business, what I think about more than I think about fear is I don't want to fail. So me knowing that I don't want to fail pushes fear away to make me progress to succeed, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I never want to fail. So what do I need to do to not fail? That pushes the fear away. I don't have time for the fear.
Okay. And faith and fear cannot coexist.
Exactly. Yes.
And I mean, and you've had, you have your challenges with any business. You have your challenges. You make your mistakes. So how do you overcome them?
Yes, definitely you have your challenges because in a home care business, the main thing you have to depend on other people. You have to depend on the aides to show up for work.
Absolutely. And what how challenging is that?
I would say in the beginning, sometimes it was very challenging because one thing, I made a promise. I didn't want to go and do a home assessment. And we're doing a home assessment and, we're trying to, gain the business of this potential client. One thing we say is that, they want to know, hey, if your aide calls out, do you have someone else who can come? So you think about if no one shows up, this person does not have care, someone who needs care. So, I was grateful that I already had the experience because in the beginning, there were a lot of challenges. And, hey, someone called out, I'm gone. So, I did a business
Wow.
where, what I knew how to do and I could be there to do the job myself if need be. And trust me, this became family, my husband, my daughters. I have one daughter who used to be a hospice nurse. So, I mean, like,
Mm,
if we had to make it happen as a family for the first couple of years, sometimes filling shifts, that's what we did. So, again, just determined not to fail. So I'm grateful for my family, the unity that we have, to make things happen together because one person can't do it alone.
that's awesome. And would you say that a lot of businesses, the leader doesn't take the time to know the assignment, and that causes problems? You can't, I don't think you should have a business that you don't know every piece of it, how it works, because I mean, people could take advantage of you if you don't know what they're doing, you don't know how it should be done, right?
Absolutely.
So, have you had any of those challenges where
I'm smiling because I'm gonna say this, and what you're saying is so true. Because in our business, my daughter and I, we literally do everything and have done everything. Like we're everything when it comes to the business. But when we would go out, people would say, as far as my daughter, they would say, okay, she's the brains of the business and you're the heart. We both would look at each other like, okay, they said I don't have no brains and she don't have a heart. But in a sense, it's true because she's that sit behind the desk and get everything done business wise.
mhm,
And I'm more the people person. I'm talking to the clients. I'm handling the managing the employees. I'm the people person and the scheduling and that organization of it. But she's more of payroll, insurance, and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, but if something happens to her, if something happens to me, it's important that we can switch roles at any given point in time.
How hard is it to get and maintain good workers? Because that when I worked in healthcare, that was the turnover was just astronomical.
Yes, I'm gonna thank God. Like I said, the first couple of years, there was a challenge. We had so many employees. But I'm gonna say over the last few years, there has been consistency. And I'm gonna say, when you can hire someone who is mature, and
Mm,
I don't want to say older, because you have some mature young people, some
that's
very,
true.
because of their upbringing. But we have some seasoned workers, employees, and that makes a difference as well. So over the last few years, it's been very consistent.
Well, I'm very proud of you. Now, you have two special needs daughters, right?
Three.
Three. Talk about that. My friend actually has five. And they're all adult males, and she's doing an amazing job. That is something that you have got to be gifted to do, because I know I couldn't do it. No, I'm serious. You know what you can and cannot do.
Yes,
But
yes.
I admire what made you want to do that.
It was never a thought for me to do that, because, I had three biological daughters. But when my oldest two went off to college, my youngest was 14 at the time, and we talked about foster care. So we went to all the foster care classes, and I took her along with me just so that she could hear and see, because sometimes, children be like, oh, yeah, I want that. But it's important when you're thinking about bringing a child into the home for them to really know, it's not going to be all good. You're not getting ready to get a sister, and everything is going to be lovey dovey. You're going to have to hear the challenges that come along with it. And when I got the call was for a 14-year-old female with moderate intellectual disability. And so it was a yes. And after having her in my home for a year, my husband and I, we were not married at the time, we were dating. But she was in my home for a year. When I say it was a lot to do, she was 14. She didn't know how to take care of her basic hygienes. I was helping her in the bathroom. I was giving showers. I was doing a lot of things that were, and I said, okay, God, because I used to be so scornful, like, oh no, I'm not touching that. But then God said, you know what, I'm gonna put you in home health care, right? So he gave me the experience before having to do the work with her. And after a year, I'm like, Lord, I cannot see this child, having to readjust somewhere else because I put in so much work. But she had two biological sisters in a different foster home. And, the foster care agency was saying, what, they can't return home. They don't have any family members, who are capable of caring for them. And I just could not sleep at night, like, what's going to happen to them? Where would they have to go? And I didn't want to separate them. So I said, okay, God, when we talk about coming out of our comfort zone, a lot of times we don't want to do things because we're comfortable. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm comfortable in my home. I don't want this responsibility. But we say, hey, God said he wasn't comfortable with the sacrifice that he
Mm.
made. You know,
Okay.
and my favorite Bible verse is John 3:16. For God so loved the world, he gave, he sacrificed. So, we have to make sacrifices. He didn't put us here to be comfortable. He wasn't comfortable in his sacrifice. So I talked to my husband, who wasn't my husband, but I said, okay, well, I know he getting ready to run. I said, I said, look, what do you think about, if I adopt all three girls? And really, he said, I already knew that's what you were going to do. He knew my heart, and his heart is like my heart. And so I adopted all three girls. This was before we were married. And then when we were married, he adopted them as well.
Oh.
Yeah, so that they're their names they had three different last names. So their original name, then when I adopted them, and then me and my husband got married, and he adopted them. So I told him, I said, I promise y'all, this is it. Unless you get married, this is it. So yes, it was just a sense of saying, I'm going to make this sacrifice, because God has been good to me. I think about when I was a single mom, which I was single, technically when I got the girls, but when I was a struggling single mom, let me say that.
Hmm.
And I said, God, you have brought me from a mighty long way, and it's just a way to give back, and to see where they were and to see where they are, and to know that God trusted me to do it, and that's what it's all about. Anybody can strive and thrive with love and patience and nurturing, and they have done just that.
So that's why I say, if you guys saw the title, that's why I call her I'm Every Woman, because she is a mother, and special needs mother is that. I mean, I watch my girlfriend, and I'm amazed at all the time. I'm amazed at how well she does everything. She's like, but you have to be called for that.
Yeah.
And so you have that, you've got the radio station, you have to go to Atlanta, you've got the home. That's a lot. And um, I posted something on LinkedIn and Facebook, and actually, believe it or not, I looked at it from Tyler Perry talking about Black women's struggle. Did you see the movie Straw yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
Yes.
so I posted him saying that, how Black women, this is what we deal with. And that thing had 2 million views.
Wow.
And I think I can't even remember how many comments. But my point is this is who we are. W- We just, like you say, I asked you, how do you do it? And I knew the answer because I do it too. We don't have options.
Absolutely. That's
We
right.
It's just like brushing your teeth, getting up in the morning, brushing your teeth, getting ready because you know that this is what you have to do and you just do it, right?
Just do it.
Yeah. So I admire you. What is something that you want to share with our audience? Encouragement or anything you want to share?
Yes, well, I'm a nine-time best-selling author, but my main book and just my brand in itself, the radio show, the television show, Reclaiming My Life. I've gone through a lot because we're sitting here and we're talking about, all of the good things, the business, the radio, the TV, and all, but I've gone through a lot of stuff. And I have a documentary out as well, Reclaiming My Life, the Claudia R
Wow.
story. And it talks about what I experienced, the trauma I experienced, being sexually violated by an uncle, the grief that I endured losing my mom. It talked about
Mm.
wrongful eviction, domestic violence. So I've been through a lot, but I have reclaimed my life to do the things that I'm doing now. So I just want to encourage, the audience, the listeners, the viewers, that you may be faced with challenges in your life right now, whether it's financial or health challenges, marital challenges, whatever it is, and you may feel stuck and just don't know how to navigate the stressors that you're dealing with daily. But I just want to let you know that I understand. And I want you to know that if I reclaimed my life, because I have gone through some stuff, don't lose hope. You can reclaim yours too.
Amen. And how can they get your book?
Yes, they can get my book from Amazon or through my website, which is contactclaudiamassey.com.
Okay, and we'll put that up. You'll send that to me and we'll put that up so they can just click on it. This is great. You are such an inspiration. I only met you the one time, and I thought you were amazing. You and your husband are just two amazing people.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
and we just had a really good time, and when we went to see her, and she's in a movie too, she's in Blood on the Wall. She didn't talk about that, but she is in that movie too. And I just felt kindred spirits with you. Because
Yeah,
remember, I said we gotta connect. We gotta connect. I kept
yeah,
telling you that, right?
yes.
So I'm glad you've interviewed me. I've interviewed you, but we're stuck together. You ain't getting rid of me now, girl.
No, we stuck, and I love you so much, and I'm just so grateful, for the opportunity to grace your platform and all that you do. You inspire me, so thank you so much.
We inspire each other, and that's really what we should be doing, queens. I tell the queens, there's so much negative out there. We don't need to tear each other down because we get torn down by so much. So many people would rather see us fail than flourish.
Yes,
So every opportunity that we get to lift a sister up, even if you don't do anything but say, "Hey, sister, you look good today.
yes,
Your hair is banging and all." That's what we should be doing for each other. Encouraging, praying for, praying with, and lifting up. And that's what BWE is really all about. So I thank you so much for your time. Make sure you send me the link so I can post it so they can get your book. And if you want to send the link to your website, however they can listen to you on the podcast and all that, we'll go ahead and post all that too.
thank you. Thank you so much.
This has been a pleasure, beautiful queen. And I got some other things in mind. I want to do a sister roundtable, and you're gonna definitely be in that.
All right, now I'm ready.
Where we just get together and talk about stuff that affect Black women.
Yes.
And so that's coming. I'm working on it. And so stay tuned, everybody, for that. We thank everybody that tuned in. We do ask that you please share the broadcast. That's how we were able to reach people all over the world. We have 40,000, 60,000 women that follow us in South Africa. We have Kenya, St. Thomas, Uganda. We have Latina Women Empowered. We've got Black Women Empowered New Jersey, New York on Facebook. We've got Black Women Empowered Atlanta. We've got Black Men Empowered, Black Girls Empowered. All of them are on Facebook. And then we have a group, Black Women Empowered, that has over 200,000. And of course, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page with over 300,000. We have a group on LinkedIn called Black Women Empowered Directory. We just hit 10,000 people in that group. So we're everywhere. Right.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, everywhere. To God be the glory. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And until I think next week we'll be back with Black Money Matters with Dr. J.E. Battle. And then the following week we'll be on with Mara Prose. She is the author and a publisher. She has her own publishing company. And she'll be on with us not next week, but the following week. Thank you so much. God bless and have a great evening.